In this video, we find ourselves back in the Outer Banks of North Carolina to visit the Wright Brothers National Memorial. We've been here before and even did a video here for the channel in 2020, but the indoor spaces at the attraction were closed due to 2020 unpleasantness. So we are going to remove that video from the Outer Banks playlist and put this video about the full experience as of May 2025 in its place. This site, run by the National Park Service, commemorates an event that changed the world, the first successful, sustained, powered flight in human history. As you enter the Visitor Center, you will find exhibits discussing the life and accomplishments of brothers Orville and Wilbur Wright, aviation pioneers who invented the first successful airplane. A tour of the Visitor Center starts with the Wright brothers' origin story. They were named after well-known theologians who were admired by their father, a traveling preacher. They were taught mechanics by their mother, an inventor who got a college degree in the 1850s when that was very rare for a woman to do.
The Visitor Center tells the story of the Wright brothers' experiments in flight and the lessons we can all take away from their efforts. Lessons like never stop learning and believe in yourself and think outside the box. The exhibit also mentions the efforts of their sister, Catherine, who was the encourager and cheerleader to her brothers. She also helped run their bicycle shop in Dayton, Ohio, while the brothers were visiting the Outer Banks intermittently over a 4-year period to work on their dream of flight. One of the coolest displays in the Visitor Center, though, is the replica of the Wright brothers' 1903 flyer. The exhibit discussed 4 major problems the brothers had to solve to get their plane operational. The actual real first successful airplane created by the Wright brothers is on display at the National Air and Space Museum in Washington, D.C. This is just a replica. Even though this is just a replica, it's really cool to see what their plane looked like at full size. And while we were there, a park ranger gave a tour. It started on the back steps of the Visitor Center, where the ranger told us about the Wright brothers' story, including details of what had inspired them to attempt flight in the first place. From there, she showed us replicas of 2 buildings that the Wright brothers originally built on this land. First, she showed us a replica of their camp building, which served both as their living quarters and as their workshop. It was built and rebuilt several times during their visits to Kitty Hawk. Next to that, the brothers built the first ever airplane hangar, which the memorial has a replica of as well.
A short walk away is a large stone marking the spot where the first flights took off from on December 17, 1903. There was a launch rail made of wood and metal on the ground because this area was all sand in 1903, which did not work as a runway. The plane was placed on a dolly that was then rolled along the launch rail until takeoff. The first flight lasted 12 seconds and only made it 120 feet. The second flight also lasted 12 seconds, but they made it 175 feet on that attempt. Later that day, a third attempt was made. It lasted 15 seconds and the plane flew 200 feet. And finally, Wilbur piloted the fourth attempt on December 17th. It lasted 59 seconds. The plane flew 852 feet. These 4 flights were the first time a heavier-than-air machine took off with a pilot on board and maintained controlled flight. Also on the grounds here is Big Kill Devil Hill, a huge sand dune that the Wright brothers climbed up thousands of times to conduct glider trials. Today, a 60-foot-tall granite monument sits atop the 90-foot hill. The Wright brothers chose the Outer Banks as the location to attempt their first flights for the consistent winds and soft landing provided by the sand, which has caused a friendly rivalry between North Carolina and the Wright brothers' home state of Ohio over which state is the real birthplace of flight. A rivalry that played out on each state's commemorative quarters when the U.S. Mint produced quarters honoring each state in the early 2000s. North Carolina is the state that the first flights took place in, while Ohio is the state where the Wright brothers studied, experimented, and planned those first flights. So maybe they both have a point.
After a walk up the 90-foot-tall dune, now covered in grass to preserve it, we get to take in the monument up close. The inscription around the base of the monument reads, "In commemoration of the conquest of the air," by the brothers Wilbur and Orville Wright. Conceived by genius, achieved by dauntless resolution and unconquerable faith. Guests used to be allowed to climb to the top of the monument and look out from 150 feet in the air at a view of the whole island. That hasn't been allowed regularly in recent years, though. However, the doors to the inside of the monument were open, and we were able to see inside. These grounds where flight began also are home today to a small public-use airport that has a single runway, which averages about 100 aircraft operations a day. After descending the dune, we stopped to check out a sculpture that was added to the grounds in 2003 on the 100-year anniversary of the first flight. This was donated by the state of North Carolina to honor the Wright brothers and the residents of North Carolina living in Kitty Hawk who stepped up to help the brothers achieve their dreams. While a number of the locals originally thought the Wright brothers might be crazy when they first arrived, the small fishing community still embraced them and assisted them in fulfilling their mission. Several workers at the local U.S. life-saving station were among those who regularly helped the Wright brothers and were present on December 17, 1903, as depicted in this sculpture.
Wilbur Wright passed away in 1912, just a few years after their success at Kill Devil Hill. Orville, however, lived to 1948, long enough to see modern flight. He lived to see large airliners and early models of jets take to the sky. He lived to see his invention, the airplane, play a supporting role in World War I and a major role in World War II. This monument is in the town of Kill Devil Hills, which did not exist when the first flights took place. The closest town to this land was neighboring Kitty Hawk at the time, which is why Kitty Hawk was usually identified as the location of the first flights, even though they were in modern-day Kill Devil Hills. Current ticket prices as of spring 2025 are $10 per adult. Kids 15 and under are free. This is a great historical site that honors a couple risk-takers and geniuses, and the people who saw fit to help them fulfill their dreams. It is a must-do on any Outer Banks vacation. Click the link at the end of this video to see our Outer Banks playlist for other great attractions in the area. And be sure to subscribe to this channel so we can see you the next time we're traveling through.